And we are live. G'day everybody, how you going today? It is so good to see you. Sorry we're running a little bit late today. We've got a new complicated setup, multi-cameras, multi-world, and we're here joined with Mr. Bruce Connelly, who a little later in this episode is going to tell us all about his amazing adventure to Central Australia. I can't wait to talk about that, Bruce. And of course, we're going to get Bobby up on the screen. I've just got to press the right button. Oh, you're not there, Bobby. There you are. Hold on, let me just add you in. I don't know what I've done. Oh, it's locked. We're going to get there. Bobby, I think you can, I don't even think you can speak yet. I'm so sorry. This is what happens when we get a new setup. There you are, Bobby. You can say hi to the world. I worked it out.
Am I there? Hello, world. I am in, we're virtually here all together.
Yes. Now tell me, last week you'd just gotten back from San Francisco, and you were absolutely exhausted. Have you recovered? Tell us a little bit about your crazy, because you've had a very busy week and you've looked at some serious gear.
Yeah, I've looked at some serious gear, had a lot of videos to put out. I just got back from Chiang Mai, Thailand for a Porsche driving experience with the all-new GTS T Hybrid in the mountains of Chiang Mai. Pushing that car to its limits as you can on these very tight, windy roads. It's fun, man. We had a good time. I was there for about 24 hours, flew back, and going to Germany next week for the Leica 100th anniversary. So there's a lot of stuff happening, man. A lot of stuff happening.
Wow. Are we going to be able to talk to you live from Germany? Are you going to be able to do what we're trying to do here?
Well, let's take a look at that calendar here real quick and let you know when I can see that, when I'll be back. No, you won't be. Unfortunately, next week, Matt, at the 27th, I'll be in the air.
Oh, well, okay. Well, that's all good. And you'll have to be our live correspondent perhaps at another time.
Actually, let me double check that, because I don't know the time zone there, because I leave on the 27th at night European time. So I don't know what that time will be here in Singapore.
Okay. Now, speaking of that Leica event, do you have any expectations of what that might be?
I do.
Like what might happen? Do you think there's going to be any big releases, or is there going to be anything exciting there? I
can't tell you anything, Matt.
Yeah, okay.
There's a celebration. There's a celebration of 100 years of Leica from the Leica 1 Model A, 1925.
Very, very good. And I'd like to welcome everybody that's here in the chat, of course. For some reason, I don't have the chat up. But Bobby, can you say some shout-outs?
There's a lot of echoes. Costa's is saying there's a lot of echoes going on right now, Matt.
Okay, that's going to be hard to fix, but we'll just turn you down, Bobby, and hopefully that helps it. Well, the echo might be this room. Ask Costas, is it the room or is it you that's echoing?
Paul says it sounds like an overseas call of years ago. So it sounds like you have two audio channels maybe going on. Double check your audio channels.
I just worked that out and I just turned it off. So let's hope that just fixed it. We'll hopefully know in. This is what.
That sounds much better.
This is what happens when you do a new setup for the very first time. I'm sorry. Apologies to everybody who's watching today. This is the first time that I've had a guest like Bruce in the room, and. So you can't tell us anything about what's happening with Leica. So what we will get into, and Bruce would love to talk about this as well. Tell us about the new OM-5 Mark II, Bobby.
OM-5 Mark II, here it is.
Yes.
Micro Four Thirds camera right here. This was just released this week. This is the update, of course, of the OM-5, which I think people were anticipating a few different things. New menu system, USB-C for charging, slightly larger grip. New color design. This is a limited edition color called Sand Beige.
I love that.
Still the same 20. Yeah, it's a beautiful color. I love this color. Still the same 20 megapixel. I went black on the screen there for a second.
Yes, I did
still
that.
20 Oh, thank you. 20 megapixel micro four thirds sensor. It's still the same sensor. You do have some more computational photography in this and defilters. So you do have some stuff going on there that are reminiscent of the previous camera. First time for me to review a micro four thirds camera though, Matt. And I have to say that I like the size of this thing. It's small. I could use a little bit more of a grip for my size of hand, but I like the fact that I could take this around, put this in my bag, and it's not overwhelming. And I still can get really decent photos out of this thing. Now, no subject detection outside of people. So if you want to take wildlife and animals and all those great things that you might see down under in Australia, unfortunately, it's just going to be standard autofocusing. But that's where you get
So there's no animal detection, is that what you're saying? Of any type?
No, nada. Just people.
Right.
Yeah.
And
So
micro four thirds is literally a 2 times crop. So a 50mm lens is a 100mm field of view equivalent. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
Well, it's easier for me to do the calculation than APS-C because it's just times 2. I'm not a mathematician like yourself, my friend. So you're very good at all these equations.
Can I tell you, if you're shooting Canon, it's even harder because it's a 1.6 crop. So just to confuse this even harder.
Yeah, I mean, it actually doesn't bother me so much. I've got this 14 to 150, which is basically 28 to 300 on this. It's a kit lens. And it's a nice little lens, but I'd like to try something a bit more pro, faster aperture, pro glass on this. I did talk to the distributor here. They said they may loan something to me for that to do something more with it. But I like it. I think the image quality out of it when you nail focus is good. Colors are great. This is just a kind of a travel, kind of robust IP53 rated camera. If you're looking for the latest in technology, you may, for like micro four thirds, OM-1 Mark II, or maybe OM-3. But if you are looking for something that's cool looking, compact, throw in your backpack, go around, can get into water and beat it up a bit, this camera is kind of the way to go.
And did you use, for example, the computational, the handheld pixel shift and things like that, which I think is pretty amazing that you can do handheld pixel shift.
Yeah, I tried that, but I can't see the RAW files yet. So I don't know if it worked in RAW or JPEG. I did try that with the, computational, like kind of handheld steady shots. I mean, it does work from what I understand. Like, look at the shots there. I mean, the JPEGs, they look fine, but I don't know about the RAWs.
Bruce, have you ever used micro four thirds, or are you like me? You're not a micro four thirds sort of guy.
No, I'm not a micro four thirds sort of guy, but you do have to give it credit for the fact that it's not 3x2.
Oh, what is the format?
Well, it's 4x3, is it not?
Yeah, 4x3.
There you go.
And
You can see
that,
it. There it is.
And that is the segue into the GFX, which is also 4x3. And that's one of the reasons you use these cameras, because they're not an artificially chosen ratio by somebody 100 years ago that spliced up movie film.
Yeah, well, there you go. So and what lenses, Bobby, did OM give you to play with for that one?
The 17 1.8 and the 14 to 150. So from what I understand, these are more sort of entry-level kit lenses, which is fine. I mean, look, when people are buying this camera, as we've talked about on this channel before, is that, they get maybe one lens, maybe two, and they call it a day. Obviously, the more pro photographers will, expand their lens portfolio. But for the average person, this is the lens that came in the box, the 14 to 150, and that's probably what they'll stay with. But I would like to try something else. I was reading online, there's a lot of other lenses for micro four thirds that are worth exploring, especially to, for better optics, better image quality, all that kind of stuff. So
awesome. And Bobby, you also got to play with the brand new Sigma. Tell us about the brand new Sigma lens that came out this week.
Yes, the 1740 1.8. This is the upgrade, I think, from the was it the 1835? I think it was the 1635 or 1835, which was very popular back in the day for a lot of video shooters. Now the APS-C version, this is the updated version of it, and it's a great lens, man. It's great. And for Fujifilm users especially, they now have a Sigma art lens to put onto their camera system with an aperture ring. I think that's the big takeaway. Or even RF users, I think, can use this as well. But the Fujifilm users finally get the experience, the aperture ring of a Sigma lens. I mean, I don't know if you have done this, Matt, because obviously it's only for APS-C for Nikon. But if you've tried the Sony and the L-mount versions, it's a thing of beauty. So my friend Ivan Joshua Lowe, who's a Fujifilm ex-photographer, the first time, because he's used a Sigma lens previously, but never with the aperture ring, and he was very happy with it. As a matter of fact, this is the fastest aperture zoom lens now for Fujifilm, and it's made by Sigma.
Yes. What were you saying about Sony L lenses? What are Sony L lenses?
Sony E-mount and L-mount. So Sigma makes for Sony E-mount and L-mount. I was just abbreviating it just to kind of keep it shorter. But for Nikon Z-mount, it's for APS-C, well, depending on the lens, because this one did not even come out for Nikon for the APS-C version. So I think Sigma and Nikon need to have a dinner together, maybe have some sake and just sort of work out their differences. That's my take.
Yep.
There's something going on there that, there's something going on there doesn't seem, either it's Nikon holding Sigma back or Sigma doesn't want to do something with Nikon. I'm not too sure, but it seems to be very odd.
It's interesting because we have Tamron products you know, coming up semi-regularly. The macro that came out for the E and the Z just 6 months ago. Tamron seemed to be having no problem getting that stuff out. So, so what's going on? You know, it's I totally agree with you. Is it a difference over licensing? You know, how much everyone wants to pay or get for licensing? It's a good question because it's been teased for a long time, hasn't it, Bobby? It's been teased that we're going to get full frame.
We are blue lensed out. I want to say blue balls, but we're blue lensed out with this one. We've been teased so long.
Bobby, you're in a great mood today. I'm absolutely loving it.
We're having a good time today. But yeah, no, I mean, we really are. I don't know what's going on. And whenever you ask somebody, when I asked the distributor here from Sigma about Nikon, he's like, please don't talk to me about this one. You know, I think they all want to be part of the Z-mount. I think it's the two corporations, not whatever it is. Like I said, they have to have dinner together, figure it out.
Well, maybe it's more than dinner. But anyway, we'll move on from that.
Yeah.
Well, so you've used the lens. Sorry, we've talked. You've used it. How did you find it?
I've used it. There's a video out online. Yes, I've used it. I found it to be good. It's an art lens. I mean, it gets to a point, Matt, you know, when we review this stuff, and I think we can attest to this as well. And Bruce, I'm sure, obviously with the vast gear that he has and his expertise, it gets to a point that everything's really good. We're really nitpicking to find the odd things off. You know what I mean? To sort of go, yeah, this may not be the, you know what I mean? Maybe it's a little bit more chromatic aberration here at this focal range. Maybe it's slightly less sharp here, but we're really nitpicking. All the lenses, all the glass is good.
Well, I mean, in Sony land, if somebody announces another 50 or 85 millimeter from China somewhere, I don't know what I'll do, right? Yes, I know Matt's pointing to these things. I've got to clear off that particular screen. There's so many of them, but there is a hole, and that is 28 millimeter. You try and get a decent E-mount 28 millimeter lens, prime.
Yeah.
It's not made.
You're right. You're right. Because Sony doesn't do one, right? They don't do 28, do they?
Well, they do 128, and it's the oldest lens, and it's an f2, and it's, well, horrible would be the kind way to put it. And so, therefore, those of us who like 28 millimeter have got a real problem.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Sony needs to fix that one. They need to come out with a good solid 28 1.4, 28 something, and yeah, that'd be good. Or
now talking about Nikon and Sigma and segueing over to Nikon, there seems to have been a rumor this week, Bobby. I don't know if
Z7 III, Matt. Really? Z7 III? Is that the rumor?
No.
No, come on, Matt. We at least have one conversation about the Z7 III this week. Let's get on to it.
I think we need to move on from the Z7 III, Bobby. I think it's time to move on from the Z7 III. And you're making me say Z, the Z7 III.
Yes,
and we're moving on to another rumor, the ZF with chrome. Do you think that Nikon might follow in the shoes of Fuji, or in the steps of Fuji? What am I trying to say? Anyway. And just create 37 different versions of the ZF, or could it? This is what I'm more interested in. Could it be? It's been 2 years. Could it be a ZF, new body, and maybe new internals? Because obviously a fair bit's happened. Like a camera like the Z5 II is actually better from my perspective. It is higher spec than the ZF. So what could it be? If it's real, what could it be? And do you think it would be the same or something more? And I'd love everybody in the comments to let us know, A, what do they think it might be, and B, let's fantasize. What would you like a new ZF Chrome to be? Is it 45? Is it 60? Bruce, you can tell us as well, because I know you like the ZF. I should have mine here.
I do like the ZF because I'm old, and I still have, I should have brought my Nikon FM1 with me.
Oh, you should have.
I have the pristine, untouched FM1, and I just think it's the digital reincarnation
I'm going to get my ZF
device.
You guys keep talking. I'll get my ZF.
Right? The FM cameras were the definition of compact and beautiful and lovely. Right?
Beautiful cameras. I agree. I agree.
Yep, no.
I think they are gorgeous. I've saw a beautiful pristine Nikon classic camera. I mean, it's just like a Nikon. Those two together, chef's kiss. When you get into the film cameras.
Okay, I've got the ZF. Sorry,
He's showing off.
I ran away. Well, not really. We've all seen it before. I'm just trying to give people inspiration. If they're going to release a new one of these and it's chrome at the top, I've got to get in front of Bruce's face.
We can't. Yeah, you got to change that camera. There you go. Change the camera angle. There we go. There's Bruce. There we go.
Just cover your eyes, Bruce, or it won't focus. Yes, do that. There you go. All right, everybody. What do we want to see is the new ZF. New colours, new chrome. Let us know in the comments. But a gorgeous camera. This one's obviously got the grip on it already. Bobby,
I want to see a 45. I want a 45 megapixel stacked sensor ZF. I want this to be the ultimate sports camera for an FM user.
Okay, so you want a
That's
Z8.
What I want.
You want a Z8?
I want a Z8. I want a Z8F. Yeah, that's right. Z8F.
Shouldn't it be called a Z8FR then?
Let's just go for it, man. Z8FR2. You know,
Z8FRS. Isn't that what they call, those fast cars, RSs?
Imagine the marketing. Nobody will be able to say the name.
That's an Audi. That's coming from an Audi person.
There you go. That it is an Audi sort of car.
Yeah.
Now, what are people saying in the comments? Let's have a look. Has anybody given
us
their...
Last comment is, I want a Viltrox 3512. I think everybody's lost on us. They're like, nah.
Yes. They've given up on the whole idea of the new ZF.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a paint scheme, probably difference if it's true. It's just going to be silver,
Yeah. Oh well.
Silver with black. Maybe a little bit of brown leather. You never know, like a dark brown chocolate leather. You could wrap around it, look very sexy. You know what I mean? Then you have to have a 40 f2 silver lens to go along with it. Kind of like remind us of the FM3A with a 45 2.8. Nick P. Yeah, let's do something like that. Silver. I'm liking it. That's my vibe. That's my vibe with this.
That's what I always wanted. An FM3.
Yeah.
I always wanted that. I've been looking for.
I have that.
Have you seen how much they cost on the used market?
I have one. I have a black one. But how much are they on the used market now? What are they on the used market?
They're about $1,400 US sometimes, and some for really good ones, right? Whereas you can get an FM1 for $50.
Yeah. I mean, the FM3A is a legendary camera.
That's a great camera. Absolute, the best.
Yeah. There is. It is. And I've got the 45 2.8, that little pancake lens that came with it.
Yeah.
I've got that lens.
That's on my list too.
Yeah. I picked that one.
Well, there you go. Yep. Wayne is saying he's going to call it the ZX using a Z8 sensor and photo tech with less video features. All right. Well, that sounds like a plan. Okay, well, there it is. Now, moving on from that, because it's clearly set the world on fire.
Yes, it has. You know what the best part of it is, Matt? When you see the renderings, everyone's using like what's that camera, the DF, and they put a ZF on it. It's like they couldn't literally, like, where's the Photoshop skills to take a ZF out there and just change it to silver? You know what I mean?
I hear you. I know. Yeah. I mean, can't AI do that sort of stuff, or is it just
sort of? Not that good yet. Not that good. By the way, we got I am Hassan on the chat real quick here. Just jumped in here. He got his new Lumix 24 to 60 f 2.8 lens, and I have that lens. I've been testing it out. It's a fantastic lens. Congrats on that one. That's a really nice lens for the Lumix system.
Man, you saw that before I did that comment. That's cool. I like it.
I'm multitasking, Matt. It's one of those few days I can do this. I don't know how. I think it's too much coffee this morning.
And I've had not a single cup of tea, so I'm struggling. Now, in more Nikon news, have you heard, Bobby and Bruce, that there's a new Megaadap adapter that's going to come out? And
is there?
Bobby, guess what this does? It not only does E-mount lenses, but it's now doing the old A-mount. Now, Bruce, tell us a bit about this.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm really looking forward to this because I'm one of those people that went from Nikon to Sony, and I desperately want to be able to use all the Sony optics on the Nikon bodies. Now, if you've seen the price of an A1 II lately, I can tell you a Z8 looks like the bargain of the century and does virtually all that you'd want, right?
Yeah,
and this might actually do it for us who want to take one set of lenses with us, but multiple bodies.
Nice.
Now, the problem with the old Megaadap is that it works quite well for primes and it works quite well for wide angles, but in long telephoto end of the world, it has issues. And maybe this will fix it.
Well, so Bobby, you've used that adapter with. I keep pressing the wrong scene. There we go. Sorry, everybody.
There we go. I'm back, Matt. Thank you, Matt. I'm here.
So Bobby, you've used was it the Megaadap or the Viltrox to run that ridiculous Sigma lens even faster than it runs on a Sony on a Z9 or something? It reminds us.
I use the Megaadap adapter for that one, the latest one, not the newest one, well, obviously with the A mount, but the latest one out there, I think was the Pro. And it worked relatively well with the 300 to 600 f4. It did. I mean, it was the autofocus was. I found it to be. And a friend of mine also found it to be faster autofocus with bird detect than the Sony A9 III. But I will tell you, there are times that it does hiccup on the zooming in and out. Sometimes it does freeze. So I think going to go into what Bruce is saying, that it's not perfect. However, Matt, there is a big disclaimer we should have let everybody in this comment section know who's watching this, who has a Megaadap adapter, who has a Z8 and wants to update to firmware 3.0.
Can I just say, that, Bobby, before you say this, we were probably using pre-production because we know the firmware's not out yet. So just keep that in mind.
True. So this is the disclaimer, pre-production firmware, and the Megaadap adapter does not work at all with the current firmware 3.0 that I've been testing, and I think that you have.
Yes.
It does not work.
That's true. But the firmware's not out yet, so, you know.
Right. So things could be fixed, yeah.
Because I'm pretty confident that Nikon thinks it's in their interests to have gone Z mount, because when Red are talking about the new Z mount Reds, they're pretty excited that videographers can use their E mount lenses. So my feeling is it's just a firmware thing that's not deliberate. They're not trying to brick it. I think it's just and that's why we haven't seen the official firmware yet. That's my guess. I mean, there might be
possibly so
as well.
I mean, possibly so, but I would just, for anybody out there does a Z8 that has that adapter that wants to update right when it comes out, is just wait a little bit, hear from everybody out there, or give Megaadap a chance to update their firmware on their adapter, because whatever it is, I think it's a significant update, because I think now you have the focus limiter inside the camera system now. You've got other things inside that are now probably going to affect how the Megaadap performs on the camera. So those are issues that could happen.
But this does A mount as well. And that's important because there's a couple of cracker Zeiss A mount lenses that are cheap as chips and they're really good.
Yes, yeah, the new one that's coming out that I don't think anybody has yet. Interestingly, Bobby, when that firmware came out, someone said, well, focus limiting work with the F mount lenses, right? Because they're old. And so I actually, if that person happens to be listening, I actually checked it and I believe it does not work. So I think it's kind of fair enough that it doesn't work with adapted lenses, especially vintage lenses that might not even have the, you know, basically the fine grain control to do that sort of stuff. I don't know.
Sure.
But anyway, great point. And look, it's always a great point whenever firmware comes out, whether it's for your car, your watch, your phone, your computer, or your camera. Wouldn't you agree, Bruce? If you're someone that wants to ensure that everything has uptime, then you wait to see other people's firmware fail.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially if you're a Leica user.
Oh yes.
At least 3 years.
At least 3 years. I love it. Well, this is a lovely segue over to Leica and the fact that they've released some new film. Now, gentlemen, you guys are both deep into Leica. I want you to nerd out on the new Leica film that's just been released.
Well, I'd like to know who actually really made it.
Okay, yeah. Do you have any theories?
I mean, the rumor is out there is ADOX, right?
Yeah. That's what I think, because it's going to tell you something. But I have to congratulate Leica for doing this, right? 1 minute you find a M11V, and now we have film. They're very consistent with their strategy, aren't they?
Yeah.
One way or another. But yes, I'd like to see that. The question is how much it's going to cost and what its distribution is going to be like. But any improvement there, ever since Panatomic X disappeared, from Ilford. Yeah, I've always wanted a 50 ISO, and I'm probably going to buy it if it becomes available in Australia. And the next question is, will we get an APO Lanthar 28mm to use it with?
Wow, you're basically not talking my language at this point, but but I've got a picture of the film up on the screen. I think. Bought a new M6. The latest Leica branded product is for you. Who in the chat actually shoots film anymore? Anyway, how many people are actually shooting film? I just highlighted the wrong thing.
I just shot a roll. Was it the Sin?
No, it's not a Sin. No, not at all. And it's all just black and white, is it? It's all monochrome.
Yeah, that's right. And the question is that they have an M6. Is it an M6? Is it the recreation or is it an M6 TTL? Because there is a difference between the M6 and the M6 TTL in the way the controls actually work, and it makes a difference on my hands.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, it looks. This is going to sound crazy to people, but based on what I'm seeing here, it does look a little bit like FP4 or something. Do we know what the ISO?
No, it's 50. It's a 50. So that's the reason I mentioned Panatomic X.
Oh, so it's like Pan F.
Yeah, well,
and actually they designed this to work with their fast aperture lenses, so you can even shoot this with a Noctilux supposedly. And inside the packaging, there's 4 different packagings for this, so it's kind of like collector's packaging if you want to call it that. And then at the same time, it gives you how to shoot with respective lenses, So it's quite cool, actually. I mean, because I think this is something that's missing that and Bruce, this is a Leica shooter. With 1,000 shutter speed on our film cameras, you're always stopping down unless you're in very low light. So your Summoluxes, your Noctiluxes, you can't maximize them at all. So at least now we can maximize our Summoluxes, even our Summacrons, and in daylight and be like, yes, we're great.
I have a 50 Summolux, and I use it, and I just think its rendering is very, very special. And that's where your 50 ISO comes out. I also feel that when you shoot film and you process it in a certain way, particularly with some of the developers like the old ID11 D76, that you get a type of look which cannot be recreated digitally. All this idea of, I've got Nik plugins and all the rest, but I can tell you, they are not the same. They are not the same. And indeed, scanned film does not have the same look in its grain structure as essentially printed film. And this is coming from somebody who makes his living out of selling only digital media.
Yes. I've got a video that's about to come out. If you look at these prints behind me here, they are 39-inch, almost 40 inches, 1 meter prints of part of the review that I did, and Bruce and I printed those, and you'll see Bruce in a video coming out in a couple of days. But that was about testing all the different cameras. So Bruce is an expert when it comes to resolution, printing, paper. He manufactures his own paper that comes from Germany and Korea and other places.
Wow.
So Bruce knows a lot about it. And you've been doing that for 20, is it 20? It must be 21 years now. I reckon
it's 25 actually.
Yeah, okay.
It's 25. So in the US that you've got companies like Red River and all the rest that essentially are the same. They import their products, they convert them in the United States. In other words, they cut them up, etc., and then they resell them to the inkjet market. And that's exactly what I do here.
Yeah,
nice.
It's very, very cool.
Fantastic.
Anyway, we're gonna get to Bruce's adventure in the outback very, very shortly. But yeah, so are you guys? Because I know, Bobby, you still shoot a little tiny bit of film. Are you excited by Leica film, or are you cynical and this is just a branding thing?
No, I'm actually excited by it because I do think this is something that's missing out there. And you know what? The price is not that bad. From what I understand, it's $10 a roll.
Oh, that is good.
So 10 US, I think it's yeah.
In the United States, you should be fine. But the question is, am I going to see this on the shelf in Leica stores here so that you can actually buy it easily? Yeah. Because buying film is actually reasonably difficult in Australia.
I don't know about Australia, but I can tell you here in Singapore that they will sell it.
Well, yeah, I'm hoping that. And then they need to sell a packet of D76 and some Patterson or Jobo developing tanks next to it, because you won't get too many people in this country that'll actually develop it.
I still have my little tanks.
Yeah, that's the thing is developing that's the hard part. I mean, in America, they have the developers are there all over the place and they do a fantastic job. Here in Singapore, it takes us about 4 to 5 days to get a black and white roll developed because only a few people will do it unless you do it yourself. And then sometimes you're at the mercy of their technique or their reused chemicals, and sometimes it's not.
Well, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And you're going to get a standard. For instance, if you use something like Microdol X, you're going to get a standard 1-to-1 dilution where you could have easily diluted it further and get a completely longer tonal range or whatever. Yes, with black and white films, you have to really control the developing process yourself. Although there are 1 or 2 small labs in Australia, particularly one in South Australia, that I name, that actually do a good job in that regard. But at the end of the day, the damn thing goes through a scanner, and that really destroys it.
Yeah, I just got this new product. I'm gonna do a video on. It's called the Veloy EZ35. So basically, it's a light box, and you use a tube that you connect to your macro lens. It doesn't matter what brand. And then you have this light box and you have a brush and a filter, so it kind of cleans the film and it gets the dust off as you slide it through. A friend of mine showed me some samples that he took of it. That's why I got interested in this, and I reached out to them. And the scans were fantastic. I mean, much better than we get here locally. Way better than we get here locally. He was using a Sony A7R5 with their macro lens, not the 90, what is it, the 50 macro?
Yeah,
and
there's a small 50 macro, yeah.
He said, and he showed me the images, and I'm like, is this 120? He said, no, this is 35, because this is what it should look like. Because he gets his stuff done in UK at a very, very good lab out there. I mean, that does a lot of great scans and development, and it even rivaled what they were giving out there at a fraction of the cost. So it's really impressive. So I'm actually, if I get a chance to try this film, I'm going to get it developed and try this out there and try to scan it with this and see how it turns out. But I know scanning is not the same as printing, though. Yeah.
I mean, I'm certainly going to give it a go.
Yeah.
But for me, film equals Leica, because it's it's one lens system I can use digitally and I can use the film. I don't use it very often, but it's there because the income that we make is out of essentially paper for digital printing. But
right,
it's
fun. It's fun, isn't it? It's fun though.
Yeah, we talk to photographers, and lots of them are old like me, and it does help. Now, have you ever thought of what happens though if you actually scan the film and you print it on a clear transparency and then contact print that into palladium prints?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Well, there's if you go and look at the US, you'll find that there's a movement for palladium prints using inkjet printed negatives, essentially. And that's an interesting way to go if you don't want to shoot film, but you would like the same type of tonal response that you might get from cyanotypes, salt, basically what we would call here alternative process methods.
Okay. Interesting.
And it's a way to get more for your print than you would out of an inkjet world.
Interesting. Okay. I think I'll tell you what, Bruce. If I take some photos that are worthy of printing, we're gonna get in touch. I'll send them your way. Let you do your magic. I haven't created anything worthy of printing yet, but if I do, yes.
Well, I mean, the biggest issue I think for photographers in Australia is that if you are a professional photographer, how do you make a decent return on investment?
Yeah.
It's really quite difficult to do so. And, to sell a print in Australia, it has to be different. It has to have something quite different.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. John Ishii, welcome John, is asking, is there any price on these new Leica films yet?
I heard it's around $10 a roll.
Oh yes, you said that.
I mean, if
yes,
that was for
that.
36 exposures, which I think is the only size that they're making, that would be a bargain.
Yeah, it's a great.
I was kind of shocked when I saw this. I haven't confirmed it. When I go there next week, I'll probably know more. And then what I can do is for you, Bruce, I can just message Matt and let him know, and he can tell you. But that's what I've read online. It's around $10 a roll, but still don't know.
Bobby, I'm hoping you get a show bag with like 3 rolls of film and a new Leica camera in it. That's what I'm hoping.
Oh, I wish there was a
The new
Leica camera involved.
The new Leica camera is likely to be digital.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I'm being silly. Now, Bruce, it's time to bring you full bore into the chat and to talk about your adventure. So, as we've learned during this video, Bruce runs a company called G-Clay Media Supplies, which creates and imports paper, canvas. Also starting to get into framing materials. Bruce also does printing. He's got 3 or 4 60-inch Canon printers and probably 2 or 3 24-inch Canon printers.
Yeah, I've got them of all sizes. 44-inch would be the most common in the industry as well.
And I'm going to do this. This is going to be a bad idea, but I'm going to do it anyway. This is what we printed for this video the other day. Oops.
Nope, you've destroyed the house, man.
I'm breaking stuff. There we go. I told you it'd be a bad idea.
Do you want to help? Help me,
No, we're good. We're good. This is
Tell Dora you've destroyed the house.
This is the beauty of live television. So this is what we printed, and as you can see, it's really big. And Bruce printed this for me. And with this, Bruce, tell us about which machine, which paper, which inks.
Oh, look. I don't want to steal the thunder from Matt's next episode.
Yeah, we won't say why we did this.
That's right. But the point of the matter is that what we had to do was pick a size of image which was big, but not huge, and we had to print it on perhaps the smoothest paper that's available in the market today, so that you can actually see the detail which is there and it's not covered up, like a canvas, for instance, would cover it up. And so therefore, you can make an accurate visual inspection of these prints to see if there is any difference between one and the other. And I won't spoil the conclusion, other than to say one of the things that actually really annoys me about certain people on the internet is that they basically get views by trying to talk to people and say, upset their homeostasis with their 24 megapixel or 20 megapixel camera to say that it's not enough, that they can't make a decent print. Well, you will find that 24 megapixels is ample enough for just about everything.
And what we didn't mention is that that's 2 different cameras. That wasn't the same shot twice. That's 2 different cameras printed side by side. So that's what that's all about.
And
so
in fact, the third one is a third camera.
Yes,
so,
there's another one.
So there's obviously 3 brands available here. And the real issue is, on the wall, can you tell what took it?
This is the third print. So there was 3 cameras side by side, all printed exactly the same size, 1 meter, 39 inches. Can you pick which is which? And that is what that episode, which is coming in the next day or 2, was all about. Very exciting stuff. But
yeah, so if you own brand A, is it really worth you jumping ship to brand B? What demonstrable result on the wall is there actually going to be for that?
anyway,
Bruce,
so,
I got a question. I got a question for Bruce, if I can, because this is really fascinating, and I think this is a tease for something massive coming from Matt, which I'm excited to see. Because I'm sure that you didn't print these just for your house. I'm sure your wife didn't want 3 photos of the same thing. Just a guess.
Although she liked it so much, it was her that put it up there and said,
was it?
we need to get it framed. So I've still got it, baby. I've still got it.
There you go. You got the magic at home, baby. It's still working.
it.
Okay. Bruce, when you get into, obviously, we've got a Fujifilm GFX in front of you there, it looks like. That beautiful camera.
Right.
And then you're also an avid fan of photography and a printer. When we talk on the camera YouTube scene and everybody talks about resolution and megapixels, is it that big of a difference at the end of the day when you're printing professionally?
The answer is no. And the reason that you pick the GFX, which we'll discuss, has very little to do with its ultimate resolution.
Okay.
It has to do with some other facts, which we'll talk about.
Well, we're segueing into it, so let's get into it. So
that's why this is the segue I'm trying to get into, Matt. A little help in there.
Thank you. Well, I was showing the prints by way of saying Bruce only does things big. That's how Bruce rolls. And
all right, Bruce.
Not only does he do big prints, but he also has his beautiful GFX Which is the exact model you got here, Bruce?
Well,
The GFX?
this is the 100 Mark II.
Yes,
Right?
there you go.
Nice.
But I mean, look, I'm fortunate the fact that whatever use case I will either buy or already have whatever I want. So I'm not an ambassador, and this is the most important word. I am not paid by anybody. I will make an objective decision, and for the most part, I'll use one of these. Right?
What's this?
A full frame camera.
That's a Sony.
Right? Now,
Okay.
I don't think he meant Sony. He just meant 35mm.
that's right, but I'll be happy to use a Nikon, or I'll be happy to use a Leica or whatever. But you know, for most people, this is more than good enough for just about anything you can do under a meter in size. Now, I possess, and our biggest selling product that we have is 60-inch width canvas.
Wow.
So, and we, like, for instance, you know, there are customers that have 50 by 50 and 60, 12 and 15 metre rolls of this. So the amount of canvas prints in Australia that are, in fact, above 2 metres is quite large. Big canvas is really common in Australia.
And so what that means, just to explain, Bobby, that means it's 60 inches on the short edge, which allows you to do about 1.4 meters. So if you can imagine, that's up to your chest height. That's the short edge, and then you can go 2 or 2.5 meters. So you're talking 6, 7, 8 feet. So you can do an 8 foot by 4.5 foot canvas, and that's the sort of stuff that Bruce and I have been making for the last 20 years. Because I also have a 64 inch, but same sort of thing. So that's the world that Bruce plays in, and he loves to go all around the world. As we were chatting about before the stream started,
Not only has Bruce been to cool places like Iceland, but his recent adventure, which was inspired by this book, was to go to Central Australia. He bought a camera, he bought a car, he bought a book, and then he drove how many? 2,500 kilometres one way.
Yeah. It's 5,000 kilometre round trip.
And he's going to explain how he was hanging out of aeroplanes, pulling 2Gs and being at 60 degrees. So, go.
Well, look, for the majority of people out there, you won't be Australians. And even if you are Australians, you probably live in Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, in a capital city. And we might all go overseas, particularly to Iceland, because Iceland is a country that's very compact. You can fly in and you can photograph a whole lot of things within a day or two that are 100 feet or, you know, a couple of 100 metres from the car park. It's actually very easy to do. But Australia probably has more and probably better photographic opportunities than just about anywhere in the world. And I've been most places, including both iced areas. The trouble is, it's very hard to get to. And when I was in this Lake Eyre area, which is in fact a desert area, which is a couple of 100 kilometres in either direction, it's sand, finding anything alive is actually quite difficult. The number of people from outside Australia was almost zero. So unlike Iceland, where you can't set up your tripod because there's already 20 people in front of you now, in Central Australia, you will find nobody. Zero.
Now, right? Bruce, I'm just showing some of the images, mostly which you captured from the air. And can you talk us through the technical challenges that you had to overcome in order to be able to lean out of the side of an aeroplane to, say, get a shot like this? And what are we even looking at here?
Well,
and tell us the camera and the lens and what was going on.
So the reason the GFX is chosen is because its megapixel number is such that you can do, if you need to do any cropping, you can do it later to an extreme degree. And because it has a very functional mid-range zoom, which no other medium format camera has. So for instance, this is the 45 to 100 image stabilized zoom. And
it's a big piece of glass.
Well, essentially you're dealing with 35 to 80. And it's an f4, and so both the camera body is stabilized and the lens is stabilized. And you're in an aeroplane, and it's a light aeroplane, and you get buffeted. So image stabilization matters. And even at 2,000th of a second, it still matters. Now, the Fuji is absolutely unique because the only other competitor in this area, the Hasselblad, does not have this type of lens with this type of range. So you've really got a selection of one brand if you want to do the job. The other thing is that the ratio of the Fuji is 4:3, and the 4:3 ratio is a lot more useful for cropping later and even at full frame than 2:3 is. So now the Fuji owners out there are going to say, why use the 100 Mark II? We could use the S model of this thing. And the answer to that is that the S model, being lighter and slightly smaller with the same resolution, would be equally as useful. But my use case for this camera, which I already had for other purposes, is art copy. So we copy art. And in order to do that, you need to use a remote connection. And the difference between the S model and the top-end camera is that, Ethernet.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing in art copy is simply to be able to control the camera and rip down the pictures, even if you use pixel shift, by the way, via an Ethernet 20 or 30 meters away. So that's why the top-of-the-line Fuji is virtually unique in mini-medium format world, because it has that ability. You'll also notice that the Mark II is a lot smaller than the Mark I was. The Mark I is a very large camera with very large power drain. So you use this from an aircraft, and with an aircraft you've got wind, you've got dust, so you can't change lenses. So you either have to have multiple camera bodies. And I did actually have multiple camera bodies with me, but this is the only one that I actually used, and it's the only one that I needed.
And that's amazing, Bruce. So you took all of this different gear, and in the end, now tell us why the zoom lens is so useful in this when you're flying in a plane. It's not like you can suddenly get the plane to stop and walk backwards, because you're always going sideways to your target.
Yes. Now let's consider some of the images that you see of these things are actual mounds sitting in a salt plain. Now these mounds are caused by fresh water bubbling up from underneath, and the white ring is calcium carbonate. Now these mounds occur in either single or many clusters or whatever, and you have to try and do as much composition on the fly. The height is 1,000 feet, and the aircraft, you tell the pilot to fly around the mound. In order to do that, the aircraft has to bank at 60 degrees. At 60 degrees, that's 2 Gs of force on your body, which is tolerable, tolerable for most people. And you just fly round and round and round, and you use the Fuji, of course, has actually has up to 8 frames a second, although you don't need that speed. 2 or 3 is enough. And you try to compose and continually fire. Now the picture that hopefully Matt is showing now is a particular example. It is actually a full frame image, right? There's no cropping available there. So when it's printed, it's a full 102 megapixels. And you can see quite clearly that it obeys the rule of thirds, because the main object is in the bottom third, roughly on the third line, and you can see that your eye goes to the distance, right out to the distance there. The other reason for medium format or mini-medium format is its very long tonal range. You're dealing with reflections off salt, and to your human eye, it burns white. But because of the long bit depth of the medium format sensor, you can bring back detail that the human eye cannot see. Now that image there, I think you'll find, is about 1/2500th of a second.
Yeah.
And the other reason is that you'll see images there near sunset. Now that's where you get the maximum contrast, where you've got the really long shadows. In order to do this at sunset, you're actually up at ISO 3200. You're also wide open because this lens is f4, and the shutter speed is down to 1600th of a second, which is the minimum tolerable. But even at 3200 ISO, even at 3200 ISO, the GFX is capable of making almost a 2-meter print, and you will not see any noise whatsoever.
Now, I've seen some of these prints, Bruce, and I have to say, and it was one of these salt flats. Yes, and I was up close to it, like I was a foot away. There's just no sign of
No.
image degradation at all. Now, we've got a couple of questions for you. One from John Ishii. Thank you so much, John. Bruce, which GF lens do you use most, and which f-stops do you use for most of your landscape shots?
The interesting question is, by the way, for most of my landscape shots, I actually use a Sony. And we'll discuss that later. It's because it's small and light, and if you actually have to fly anywhere in a commercial airline, the GFX gets to be big and heavy. The most used lens that I have is the Jewel in the Fuji Crown, is the 20 to 35, which is equivalent to roughly 15.8 to 28 millimeter. It's unparalleled, right? It's virtually perfect. It hardly shows any resolution drop in the corners, and the reason that one uses the 45 to the 100 with it is that they both have an 82 millimeter filter thread, and one of the things you have to think about in the air is, do you have to use a polarizer or not? And so you only have to have one size filter for both of them. So the answer to that is actually the 20 to 35.
But that's on your Sony. Is that what you're saying?
No, that's
on this one.
That's on the Fuji. On the Sony, the equivalent, of course, is the 16 to 35 GM2.
Yeah, cool. We've got another question from Carl. Just wondering, how did the atmosphere affect your images?
Yes. Now, this is another issue, the atmosphere. We are lucky in Australia that the airport involved here is called a place called William Creek. And if people look it up, William Creek is a tiny town which only has an airport. That's it. And it's for light planes. But the pilots there are very skilled with photography for aeroplanes that have no doors. I mean, you understand here that the doors have been removed, and it is possible, yes, you could jump out if you really wanted to. But the airspeed is such that it pushes people back in.
And what shutter speeds were you using out of the
The
planes
shutter
there?
speed, the minimum shutter speed is 1/1600th of a second, the maximum being 1/2500th of a second.
Very cool. And we have Courage Studios asking, is Fuji good for video? Well, Bruce, I don't think you shoot a lot of video, do you? But
no, and the answer is I did find the video button on it. It is there. Now, I mean, the APS-C Fuji cameras are probably very good for video one way or another. And I know Fuji's going to put out video in the GFX, but I can tell you that the scan speed of this sensor is such that I would be extremely dubious about the rolling shutter issues.
Yeah. And I think they've just moved to 4K. Is that right, Bobby? That it's now a 4K video from the GFX?
8K. 8K.
Oh, it's 8K.
Yeah, you can go up to 8K with
Yeah.
it. Yeah, so the GFX the GFX 102 is actually a very strong video camera. The rolling shutter, obviously, for those who are concerned about that, the rolling shutter will be an issue. But they have the GFX Eterna camera that's coming out, which is going to be the cinema camera. But for a lot of us out there, the 102 will be more than adequate. Now, the 100S2 is only 4K, but the 102 goes up to 8K. So I would say, like, if you are into video and you're into medium format video, then the 102 is the way to go, and it's pretty impressive. It's beautiful video. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like IMAX sort of scenario, isn't it? I mean, not quite, but it's a big sensor. And it's full frame?
Well, now, the other issue is to consider the sensor size, which we'll discuss later, right? Everybody wants, with a GFX, they want to buy a full-frame lens, stick it on it, and hopefully it's going to cover the sensor. In fact, many of them do, but they're very limited in their resolution on the side. The sensor is 44 by 33 millimeters. In the air, mechanical shutter is the way to go. I had some examples which I didn't show, Matt. I did actually use for a while a silent shutter, even at 2.5 thousandths of a second, and you can actually see distortion halfway through the frame from the buffeting.
Wow.
So mechanical is the way to go.
Craig has asked, how Bruce, did you start in aerial photography? Is this your first time?
No, it's not my first time.
Right.
However, the answer is this book.
Yep.
And if there's anyone over there in the US, this is a book written by 5 photographers called The Light Collective. And,
yes.
and it was shot a little less than 10 years ago, and similarly Lake Eyre, and it has some of the most beautiful detailed shots of the area. But Lake Eyre, that I went to, was only seriously flooded 3 times since 1860. So where they took their images, there was not so much water. 2025 is the largest flood of Lake Eyre since 1974. And when I first decided to go, there was no water. And yet when I got there 3 weeks later, it's the size of a bay. It's enormous. The centre of Australia is full of water.
Which is very unusual, because it's a desert.
Now this book is by the Light Collective. I managed to meet one of these photographers, Paul Holian in Tasmania, a wonderful person, and it has some beautiful aerial work, and this is what started me off wanting to do what they had already done, but with more water.
Now, I Am Hassan is asking, how do you compensate for atmospheric haze and heat vapor?
Okay, so we don't have to worry about heat because it's freezing. So Australia in winter is cold.
Even the desert.
Even the desert, right? The maximum temperature here at ground level is about 22 degrees C, and at 1,000 feet.
Oh, it'll be freezing.
Right?
And you're doing what, 200 Ks?
Oh, I don't know what the actual speed is, but the actual height, the answer to the question is the height is 1,000 feet.
So it's cold.
That's right. Now,
And the doors are off the plane, so there is wind. Crazy wind.
Yeah, but in a Cessna, because you've got propellers or whatever, it does actually push most of the wind actually
around
the fuselage.
Yeah.
If you try to stick your foot out of the plane, which I did on a number of occasions, the velocity is such that it'll push you back in again. But the answer to the thing is all these photographs are taken between 1,000 and 1,500 feet. Any lower than that, the velocity becomes very high, and any higher than that, even with these low temperatures, you get too much atmospheric interference.
Right. Yeah, so you don't get obviously you don't get heat, and Australia, in the middle of Australia, there'd be no pollution. It'd be some of the cleanest,
zero.
Some of the cleanest air in the world.
In fact, these areas are dark sky areas where there's lots of telescopes and things like that.
Yeah.
There's no light pollution.
Now, do you want to have a bit of a chat about any of these images?
Images that you can see over here on this screen, Bruce.
Well,
So
I actually wanted to start with
we'll go back to the lens.
this
Okay.
thing.
Yeah, all right.
Because
let's go
it's
back
important.
to you.
Let's go. All right, it's all you.
So you have a look at the picture that you see there, which essentially is the white area is salt. Around it, the very white area is a calcium carbonate deposit, and this is water, not from the lake itself, but from underground supplies bubbling up, and they make these structures. Now, they are found in other places in the world. So, for instance, salt lakes in the US and other things would probably have them too in certain areas. But the way they're distributed, you can compose that to lead the eye in various directions, one way or another. And I'd seen a lot of previous photographs of these by a number of people, and they basically go out there with a 70 to 200 zoom, and they zoom right into the thing, so you see a picture of the eye. And what you don't see out of those cameras is the structure of the salt, because a lot of the full frame cameras just burn it out white. But the medium format camera shows all the detail that's there. And
16-bit, there you go.
Well, remember the Fuji is only 16-bit, it's single shot.
Oh,
right.
And you weren't doing single shot.
I did actually use that for a lot where it mattered.
Right.
Yeah. So that should be important. Yes, it is 16-bit. You will get a 16-bit image if you use continuous, but the bit will not be populated.
Right. The bit will not be populated. What does that mean?
Well, basically, you don't have 16-bit.
Okay.
Having said that, remember that when you're printing on a piece of paper, you've only actually got 7 to 8 stops.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's right.
Going to paper changes
That's right.
the
So
equation.
printing on paper is about compressing that dynamic range.
I always remember talking, when I was printing my books, I'd always say, oh, do you want 16-bit TIFF files or no, 32-bit TIFF files? And they'd go, no, it's just 4 times the size for no reason whatsoever.
That's right. By the way, Fuji has 3 mid-range zooms, right? The thing about medium format or middle medium format is that you can't actually buy a 24-70, right?
Yep.
All the zooms are compromised in the fact that they're a smaller range, so you have to sacrifice either the long end or the short end.
Yeah.
And what you learn with aerial work, because you've got wings involved,
Yes.
right, is that the 28 to 35 bit, that ain't used. Otherwise, you're photographing a wing somewhere or an engine or something like that. So that's why the 35 to 70 equivalent, which is 45 to 100, is used, and that's perfect for this type of work.
Now, Hassan is asking, what kind of pre-scouting goes into determining a location and time to photograph? I bet you did a lot of that, Bruce. Oh, luck, cool.
The answer is with Lake Air, total luck.
Good one.
Being an Australian, I realised that the centre of Australia only really fills up with water when there's a serious weather event.
A hurricane.
That's right.
Hurricane!
Now earlier on this year, the northeast coast of Australia in Queensland had some very serious flooding, absolutely huge. And we all knew that water was going to end up in Lake Air eventually, one way or another. The last event and the biggest event in history has been 1974 when there was a cyclone. So you know that. But virtually every year Lake Air does get some type of water. It's just that this time it got enough water so that you can use a boat.
That's amazing. So people had to suddenly bring boats out of nowhere.
That's right. Now the other thing about air, right, which is there's quite a lot written about it and quite a lot of scientific reports about these mounds and other things like that. The book has everything you want to know about it, and if you look up the Light Collective, there are also several items and articles about how they actually did this, one way or another. And if I hadn't have met Paul, I probably wouldn't have twigged my attention to it. I also noticed that one of them used a medium format camera years ago, which was the Pentax. Now, the Pentax is really a piece of history. The Fuji might have, similar size sensor, but image stabilization has come a long way. Continuous autofocus systems, everything have come a long way. So realistically, the Fuji doesn't lack anything over any of the full-frame cameras for doing something like this. It's just a bit heavier, that's it.
Now, Bruce, what's John Ishii's asking, what's your favourite paper to print on, rag or any other type you prefer?
Well, I mean, I import them all, right, and some of them are specially made. The answer to that question is that it depends what you want to do. Do you want bragging rights or do you want quality? The absolute answer to the question is the very best paper to print on and display is actually one of the cheapest. It's actually a smooth alpha cellulose paper.
Is that what we print?
That's what we've got, right, which is a 230 GSM, and it's matte because you'll lay acrylic over the top of it, and you'll actually the acrylic will actually touch it. There's no need for a matting or anything else like that. These papers are actually the cause of luster papers. And
gotcha.
I don't want to mention the vendors, but the truth of the matter is that virtually every good luster paper is made by one company in Germany. They make the actual paper itself, the core, and it comes out under all these different brand names. And that core is the smoothest thing you will ever touch. And Matt, just run your finger over it.
Yes, yeah. No, it's smooth. Now, Jim Owens is asking when to use cold press versus matte paper.
Well, cold press is a matte paper. Cold press just refers to the texture of a rag,
right?
Of a rag paper, and there, how can I put this nicely? There's a lot of papers that imply they're made in the United States. They are not. All of these papers come from Europe.
Yep.
There's only a very few sources of them, and 2 major mills actually went out of business in the last 3 years.
Right.
So there's less and less.
We've got a question from Courage Studios. What gave you the idea to choose Fuji camera system than any other camera system? What do you really like about it?
You remember I have a lot of cameras, right?
Yep.
I have a lot of cameras, right? I chose this model Fuji, and it had nothing to do with aerial initially. It's for art copy. And if you copy paintings, you want a 4:3 ratio if you want to do it in one picture. And that's the reason that this camera exists, was already in my arsenal, because it's already hooked up as a remote connection. So if you brought in your artwork or whatever, you just put it in front of the Fuji and you've got so many megapixels and you've got a ratio that's roughly like most things. The reason I chose it for aerial is because it has the resolution to do cropping later. It has image stabilization, both in the lens and the body, and it has a zoom lens that covers the required range. Now, the two other issues, it's also CF Express Type B, because I took 4,000 frames over 6 hours.
Yeah.
And it also allows you to charge by USB-C. I mean, in the air, you can't change your memory card, you can't change your lens easily, and you can't change your battery. So for instance, in the Fuji, the battery sits at the bottom, and if I fiddle around here while I'm being buffeted in a plane and I try to drop this thing,
That's going to
it
fall
falls
out
on the ground, right?
That's gone.
I mean, I had a USB-C pack attached to the side of the Fuji with a USB-C
One of these.
one of these
Yeah,
attached
don't
to
pull
it
it.
in the back, and I finished the day and ended the day at 100% charge.
Yep. It's brilliant.
And really,
Got a
there's
question.
nothing else
Got a question
out
for
there
you.
in the market.
Sorry, Bruce.
that
Just
ticks
jump in
all
on this
those
real quick here.
boxes.
Bobby's got a question.
Yeah, for the between the Sony A7R5 and the Fujifilm GFX 100 II, both have stabilization, both are high megapixel. Is the 16-bit color a big factor for you when you're looking at photography like this?
No, it's not. No, it's not. In fact, my camera of choice for most things is the CR because of its weight, and the Leica.
Okay.
And guess what?
And
All
why?
of the-
And why though?
Well, all of these cameras have the same pixel pitch.
Yes, it's the same pixel pitch.
That's right. I mean, the GFX is essentially exactly the same sensor. There's just more pixels sitting there.
They've just done more around
That's
the
right.
edge.
So, for instance,
Gotcha.
if you, you've got exactly, you've got, if you crop it to the same size, you've effectively got the same result.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So,
Good to
so
know.
Bruce
Just
has
curious.
created a world where he's actually using the same sensor in a Leica, the same sensor in a Sony, and the same sensor in his GFX. And they are all Sony sensors to the best of our
Oh,
understanding.
yeah, that's right. But they're not quite the same in the sense that,
Oh, well, there's different glass on them and
Yeah,
proprietary color science, I bet.
well, that's right. I mean, in the case of the Leica, for instance, we don't have an autofocus system. So the autofocus points effectively are mapped out one way or another. And we have a choice of using a monochrome sensor as well. And the M11 monochrome is in a resolution world that nothing else can match. Even the GFX is pressed there, right?
Oh, well, that camera's amazing. I mean, they're using the RGB without the color array, so they're basically getting more information. I think that's an astonishing idea if you can afford it. Which, if anyone wants to lend me one permanently, I'm there.
See, that's why I want to see, this megapixel number, I want to see people cut it in a quarter. Because the issue is that the red resolution in any one of these color sensors is only a quarter of the number quoted. There's only one red pixel. There's two green pixels and one blue pixel. And I tell you what, if you do art copy, you really notice this difference. If you copy certain artwork, for instance, with acrylic paints or whatever, and you compare a normal shot to a pixel shifted shot, you will notice a big difference. Right?
Really? So pixel shift is much better then?
Sorry?
Is much better than when you're doing that kind of stuff.
Right. And the real use for pixel shift isn't really to shoot 20,000 different frames and put them together. It's to actually shoot 4 frames so that you get full color resolution over the things that you've got. And it's very noticeable, that type of difference.
Interesting.
And also, when you shoot a painting, it doesn't move, so you don't have to worry.
Right. So really for you on this one, because the Leica obviously doesn't have stabilization on the lenses and on the body, the M series. SL, different story, but yeah, that's another topic for another day. then the Sony doesn't have that kind of range with image stabilization in both. So the Fujifilm was your choice for this because of that, really, in essence.
That's exactly right. If you're doing aerial work, the Fuji has the advantage one way or another. Now, I did have with me an assistant and a whole stack of other cameras with lenses. I have to say, I mean, I had 3 Sonys sitting in a line, all with different focal length lenses on them.
Yeah.
So I had 3 A7R5s sitting there, and I didn't pick up one.
Wow.
Now, the reason for this is because the Fuji system gets a less compelling argument as the focal lengths get longer. And so if you need more than 100 millimeters, you're forced to use a 100 to 200 millimeter zoom, which has a very limited aperture of f5.6 and questionable resolution in the corners. Now, one of the other things is to understand is that when people think about medium format, they think, oh, the lenses are perfect, they cost a fortune, they've got to be good. Well, the answer to that is not true. This lens, you'll see all these people when this lens come out, Fuji gave them and said, oh, it's wonderful, it's perfect, it's liar, liar, pants on fire. This lens has very poor corners at f4.
Yes, we've seen that.
And it's very noticeable in a big print. Right?
Interesting.
And it gets decidedly better at f5.6 and f8. But what that means is that if you have a subject where you need resolution in the extreme corner, you really have to make a choice between bumping the ISO and stopping things down to f8, or dropping the ISO and suffering in the corner, one way or another. So that's a decision I had to make on the fly, because I was very well aware of that. Whereas on the 20 to 35, it doesn't seem to have a flaw anywhere.
That's a fantastic lens. It's a really good lens. Yeah.
Now, Bruce, Craig's asking how to use pixel shift on the plane when moving. I don't think.
Oh,
you're
no, I
not,
didn't.
You're not.
No. The camera was originally purchased and is permanently stationed to copy art.
Where pixel shift is employed.
Where pixel shift is employed if somebody pays enough.
And can I just say that
Matt, you lost you. We lost you. You hit a button. You got a button, got in a conversation, and then we lost you,
there we go.
my
Are we
friend.
back? Are we back? Buddy?
Yeah, we're back. We're back. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, I don't know what's going on, as you can tell.
Oh, by the way, I still do use.
Yeah, so prior to the GFX, Bruce was using the Sony A7R III, which is, we both own that camera, and he was using, that has a 4-way pixel shift, is it, or 8?
It does have a 4-way pixel shift, but
which is amazing.
In order to copy art, if you have space and technology, one of the ways to do it is effectively move the camera around or move the art painting around. So in other words, if you hold the camera in a position and you have a giant motorized wall, and you actually move the artwork through and continually fire shots and stitch them together later, you actually get a better result than absolutely anything.
Yeah.
You know? And your choice of pixel will be the A7R III because it's the magic 40s number.
Bobby, have we frozen?
Yeah, you're frozen.
It's because
the live stream also froze too. You there? Hello. And we lost him. I don't know, guys, if we're still online or not. I am not too sure.
Basically, the picture's frozen. Yeah. You're not frozen. I don't know why I'm frozen.
I'm not frozen? Okay, I'm good?
Oh.
Yeah, you're frozen on your side.
Is the stream still going up to YouTube, though?
I don't know. I'm looking at it. It's just frozen still.
How about audio?
I think I'm still live. Yeah, I'm looking live here. Sorry, guys. We are live. If we are live and I'm here with you guys, we're having technical difficulty on Matt's side of things with Bruce. So, yeah, we had a fantastic conversation there. And, yeah, it looks like we are back. I do see, well, no. We're going back and forth, back and forth. You guys
Bruce,
see me okay?
Can you talk? Can you hear us, Bobby?
Hello, I can.
Yeah,
you
I
hear
can hear
me?
you guys. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
let
I
me
can
try.
hear
You guys keep talking. I'll try and fix the
Okay.
camera.
Yeah.
Look,
So
I was about to say,
Matt's. Yeah, go back to what were we saying, Bruce?
well, I don't know where we dropped off, but as I said, the GFX has some good lenses and some not so good lenses, and the longer you go out in your zoom focal length, the least attractive that they get. So, for instance, in the 70 to 200 area, I mean, my default choice is the Sony GM2. It's virtually the lens that can commit no sin. It weighs virtually nothing. You know, when that lens came out, I just fell in love with it, and I don't think I've ever detached it.
Have you tried the new 2870?
No, actually, because I had to make a choice there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to remember the aperture is. I mean, that's a wedding lens. I see that as a wedding lens, right?
True.
I don't do weddings.
Yeah.
Right. I wanted a 24 to 70 because the 28 to 24 mattered to me.
Yeah, fair enough. Especially with what you're doing. Yeah.
Look,
Fair.
I've got all the primes as well, but I don't know about you, but when the GM2 primes came out, when the GM2 zooms came out, they put virtually all the primes in the range out of business.
They're very good. They're surprisingly very, very good. That 2470 of 2.8 GM2 you mentioned is phenomenal. The 1635 is really good. Yeah, I mean, Sony's on fire right now with their zooms. Whatever they're doing, whatever sauce they have in those lenses, it's unbelievable for the size too as well.
Yeah,
We see Matt's face on there popping in.
Oh, can you? Where am I popping
Yeah.
into? Don't even know. I popped in. Yeah. Can you see
You
me
did.
now? I have a look at the live stream. I don't think that's what's going to the live stream.
Okay.
I hope not anyway.
Yeah.
Because I'm messing about.
But yeah, you know, I'd have to justify replacing them, and you know, unlike the Fuji mid-range zoom, the Sony mid-range zoom, you look at the corners, and they're often as good as the center.
They've done a fantastic job. They really have.
The only reason you buy a prime is because you need the aperture to be faster.
Yeah. Good point.
Bruce, is there anything else you want to tell us about your adventure? Because we're hitting the 1 hour 20 mark. We'll probably wrap it up soon.
All right. The other lens I took with me is this one. And this is a very special lens, right? This is Laowa's tilt and shift 50mm lens, and it's for GFX. This is a unique lens in the market. There is no competitor from anywhere for this particular lens. Fuji's own lens is 30mm. It's a very weird focal length, right? And this lens has a tripod foot in the middle of it, one way or another. Now, what you can do with this lens is effectively is something that you just, in landscape, this thing produces an image of about 160 megapixels at full shift in either direction.
Wow.
And what one can do is then can actually frame later on. And if Matt would find the picture, I'll show you what was done with it.
No, I can't. This whole thing got brought down because our B monitor went flat, and that's where that's been done.
Okay. So,
and that somehow broke my camera.
Now, this is exactly the same lens as used with Nikon, Sony, or whatever, because it's a manual fit. But the truth of has a
We lost your audio there, Bruce. So, guys, we're having some technical difficulties here at the 1 hour, 20-minute mark. So, if you guys can hear me, just let me know in the comment section below. But yeah, we are lost.
You're back. You're back now.
I'm back here.
Sorry, I mean
we've lost Bruce.
Is back. Keep going, Bruce.
Okay, so we can't show you the pictures because Matt's having trouble. But essentially, this allows you 12mm of shift in either direction. And the 35mm format, you get no vignetting or very little vignetting at that. In the GFX format, plus or minus 8mm in this direction. And because it's the 33 megapixel sensor, you can post-crop move up and down. So effectively you've got shift in both directions. And what that allows you to do is to actually shoot landscape of buildings with a panorama, but also without leaning verticals one way or another. And you can also use tilt at the same time. And I actually have an example of that if Matt can find it.
Okay, well, no. I think if we try and bring that back up again, we will break the stream. So we'll just have to we'll have to do it another day, Bruce. Or,
Yeah.
or
Apologies on that, Bruce. Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, on his laptop. There you go.
Right. That is the full image, which is 3 photographs stitched together, taken within a second.
Wow.
So can we see that?
Yeah.
So that's full shift right, 12 millimeters, center, full shift left.
I'm getting there. This thing's that we've now got ghosts in the system, and it's doing its own thing. There we go. There we go.
So that's
How well's that reading?
Well, I mean, we get an idea of what it looks like. Obviously, we see the vignetting around the side of it, but get an idea of what it's doing. You know what I mean? And obviously giving us a much wider view. Yeah.
Now, what it allows you to then do is crop within that image to whatever your specification was. And the crop, right, is still well over 100 megapixels once I used this, and still is it's about 1.2 by 2.1 meters in size when I print it.
Jeez.
Pin sharp to the corner.
Wow.
And so there we go. And so this lens, now in Australia, this lens costs 1/3 of what the Fuji 30mm shift costs. And yet I can tell you that it holds its resolution virtually out to the ends of the frame at f/16. So it's quite a unique option. And the other thing is you'll see a lot of reviewers complain about this foot and they show that it vibrates. But my copy doesn't vibrate. So I don't know what they've got one way or another.
And we have to thank Lauer for sending that
That's right.
to me. And Bruce is going to lend me his GFX. Was it September? Because you're going away.
Yeah, I'm
or
using
something?
Leica then. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll be doing some GFX stuff in the coming month. Well, Bruce,
Nice.
I think as we trail towards the 90-minute mark, which is astonishing, unless there's any last QQQs or any last things, Bobby or Bruce, that you want to share on this fine Friday here in the east or wherever we are on the planet. Let me just
I think it was very insightful. I think this was a very insightful conversation. A lot more questions we could have for Bruce, I'm sure. We can definitely talk more about this because I think there's this, kind of to wrap things up here as well. I think there's a lot of as we talked about, the camera YouTube space of megapixels and what's needed and what's not needed and what's necessary. And obviously different disciplines with photography that I think are quite interesting to learn about. Real world versus YouTube world. And I think for a lot of people out there that are looking to buy into a system, why pick the 102 versus the 100S2, for example, if they're on the fence between which GFX system, and depending on your photography discipline, like Bruce said, Ethernet port, big factor. You know what I mean? And so, there's a lot of factors that come into play for choosing which system is needed. So I think this is a really good conversation. Fantastic conversation.
Yeah, it's a great point that we don't enough talk about our works going from the digital world to the real world. And Bruce has been not only enjoying this himself, but helping companies all over Australia print for their customers, or people like me print for myself. So it's been fantastic that Bruce has championed that. And, it's in a way, it's just the start of a new beginning, which is maybe something that we can bring in another episode.
A new beginning. We've been at it for a long time.
Yeah,
Matt.
but new beginnings. Like there's some plans in the wind which we won't share today. So I'd like to thank everybody very much in the chat for putting up with the technical difficulties. This is literally the very first time that I've gone multicam, as well as Singapore and Melbourne. From a laptop. It's pretty crazy. So to give you, to nerd out a little bit, we're running, as the main camera here, we're running the Z6 III, which is wirelessly sending the signal via HDMI, which is crazy. I can talk about that later. And then we're using the Z5 II for Bruce's camera, and that's just coming in via USB-C. So we're just using the built-in web utility. So that's charging the camera and giving us Bruce's signal, which looked great. It's the first time I've used it for web. And I haven't, so that's been running the whole time, no problems now I had it on an hour before you got here. So that has been running for 2.5 hours through that cable.
Yeah, it's pretty damn good.
And then we've just got USB-C radio mics, and I've also got a vision switcher here. I tell you, it was, I wasn't sure we were going to make it, Bobby, but we got here.
We're there. We're online. We're online.
Yeah, we made it. So I'd like to thank the audience as always for being with us and putting up with a few bumps, but I think we got through it okay. Bobby, of course, as always, you're a champion, and Bruce, you too.
Thank you, Bruce.
And thank you for sharing your beautiful images, and thank you for helping me with those big prints. Please hang out for my video coming soon. Thank you, Bruce.
Lord.
Matt. Thank you, Bobby. See you all
You're welcome,
soon.
Matt.
We'll see you
See
next
you soon.
Friday. It's been large, and everybody have a great weekend. All right.
It's been very large.
Now.